Welcome to the fiscal year 2023 Michigan Department of Education Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report recorded webinar. This webinar will go over an overview of the Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report that can be found in Nexus and that is due annually. Let's take a look at the agenda and outcomes of this webinar. During this presentation, the Section 31A consultant team will provide a detailed walkthrough of the purpose of the Section 31A grant, the end of the year report, a short overview of the Nexus platform, and the step-by-step directions to successfully complete the Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report, also known as the Section 31A APFR. Additionally, our team will share important contact information that you may use to reach out to the Section 31A team if you have additional questions. If you have specific questions relating to the current APFR or previous year reports, you will contact Mrs. Julie Thielen, our OES Nexus analyst. On our Office of Educational Support Special Populations Section 31A team, we have our SPU manager, Michelle Williams, and your designated single points of contact program consultants, which include Dawn Carmody, Stephanie Holmes-Webster, and Suzanne Graham-Bush. We are all happy to assist you regarding your Section 31A technical assistance needs. As we begin our presentation today, it is important to remember that the Section 31A at-risk grant is a supplemental grant to support at-risk eligible students to achieve proficiency in ELA by 3rd grade, proficiency in math by 8th grade, and career and college readiness by the end of high school. CCR, or Career and College Readiness proficiency, is measured in 11th grade with ELA, math, and science assessments to ensure that students have the necessary skills for continuing their education or joining the workforce. In addition to academic achievement outcomes, Section 31A Intent and Purpose also focuses on students attending school regularly to ensure that they engage in the educational opportunities. Before we jump into completing the fiscal year 23 APFR, if you are new to using the Nexus platform, we want to remind everyone that this report is in the Nexus platform for the 3rd year. Much of the annual program and fiscal report has not changed from last year. A couple of important reminders when using Nexus. All Nexus users must have a Michigan login account or My Login account. On this slide, you will see a link for a resource that may help your team create My Login accounts. An important consideration is that Level 4 users must be assigned to the Section 31A report by a Level 5 authorized official. The second link on this slide is an easy checklist of how your Level 5 authorized official can assign applications or reports to Level 4 authorized users or other users. Another reminder is that there's new terminology used in Nexus as compared to MEGS Plus in previous years. These new vocabulary align to other state systems such as the Education Entity Master or EEM and Sigma. Some examples of this are in MEGS Plus, the term agency refers to districts, while in Nexus, you will see the term organization and entity. Another example is instead of the term grant, you will see the term program used, like program name or program number. When you log into your My Login screen, after you have acknowledged the pop-ups, the first screen you will see is your dashboard. On the dashboard, you will see 3 widgets or panels, including the My Tasks, My Opportunities, and Announcements. My Tasks is your to-do list. These are the applications or reports that have been initiated or assigned. My Opportunities are the programs, formerly called grants, that are available for your organization or district. This is the list of applications and reports available. Some are required, while others may be competitive or optional for your district. Announcements is the panel where MDE and the Nexus platform can send a variety of updates or announcements. This feature in Nexus was not available in MEGS. When you choose the Section 31A APFR from your My Task panel on your dashboard, your second screen will be the report on the screenshot shown here. Let's do a quick overview of some of the features of this report. First, there's the tabs bar. This is the blue bar across the top of the report. It will be accessible from anywhere in the Nexus platform. On the far left, you will see the Home button, which takes you back to the Nexus dashboard. Administration, which will allow users administrative functions for their district. And Searches, which allows overall function within Nexus and especially to search different applications and reports. On the far right of the tabs blue bar, you will see some icons. This includes the half circle, which means the theme setting of the application can switch. This button switches between the visible settings from black to white. There is also a book icon, which is where you can access the Nexus platform's manual. Lastly, on the tabs bar, to the far right, will be the user's name. This allows you to access the user profile, messages, edit the dashboard, and access a logout link. Next, let's look at the report number. The report or application number will share some important information regarding the task you're in. The first part of the code describes the application or report. So in this, you will see the number 31A is identified since this is the Section 31A APFR. Then it shows the fiscal year and the district code. When hovering over this ID, you will see the application or report name, the current status of this task, your role in the district, and the due date. If you click on the report number, it will take you back to the landing page or document overview from anywhere in the report. Next, let's look at the navigation form slide menu. For this demo, we have collapsed the Forms headings. In the Form slide menu, to ensure that you could see them all in the screenshot. Be aware that when you enter the report, they will most likely be expanded. The navigation slide menu is a navigation tool with links that will allow you to go from one form to the next within the task. Please be aware that if utilizing the navigation slide menu, you are going to want to utilize the Save button in the top right-hand corner of each form or screen. Next, we have the main screen. This is the portion of the screen that will display each new form as you navigate through the reports or applications. Up in the right-hand corner of the main screen is the Additional Tools buttons. These additional tools can be found in the top right-hand corner of the main screen, just below the user name in a green banner. Depending on the form or screen that you're on, you may see additional tool buttons, including New Note, Save, Add, or Delete. When you expand the navigation slide menu, it has a long list of forms or screens that will be displayed. These screens are broken up into sections. The first section in the Section 31A APFR is called Forms. There are 4 subsections under the Forms heading. The first 3 screens or forms are required by all districts. They include the cover page, important information, and assurances. The last link in the form section is the help guide. All districts are recommended to download this help guide to help ensure that you're completing the report in a timely and accurate manner. The second subsection are the forms for the Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report that will describe how the district spent this grant during the 22-23 grant cycle, including the school year and the summer programming in 2023. We will look at these forms in great detail in the step-by-step component of this webinar. The third subsection in this first screenshot is called Attachments. At this time, this is an optional section and is provided in cases where districts may need to upload any supporting documentation requested by a consultant in the Section 31A APFR. Next, let's look at the middle screenshot on this slide. In the next section of the navigation slide menu is the tools. This section has a variety of tools available in the report. The first tool is called Document Framework. The document framework is like a landing page. This will take you to the report status timeline and the original screen you saw when you first entered the report. The second tool in this Nexus section is called the Add Edit People. This is the tool where the report can be assigned to other users in the district or organization. This tool will be necessary for Authorized Officials Level 5 to assign the Section 31A APFR to authorized users for. Until an authorized official assigns the authorized user the task, the user will not have access to the Save button or be able to save the entered data in the Fiscal Year 23 Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report. The next 3 tools include the Document Status History, the Document Attachment Repository, and the Document Modification Summary. These tools will not be used frequently while completing the Section 31A APFR due to this being an end-of-the-year report and not an application that requires multiple modifications. These may be useful tools if a district requests to amend their report for accurateness in September after final summer expenditures have been determined, or if modifications are requested by a Section 31A consultant due to a monitoring or audit finding. Next, in the Tools section is the Document Validation link. This could be used before you hit Submit on your application or on your report to determine if there's any global errors that need to be fixed before you can submit. The last three tools are the Notes section, the Print Document, and Document Messages. The Notes tool is a summary of all of the notes that have been written in the report on any screen or form. The notes are like the former review comments in MEGS Plus. The Print Document tool is available to print the entire report from one screen. A tip or trick is to only print a form or screen or two at a time. It is not recommended to click all of the radio buttons and hit print, as this will take many minutes to download into a PDF. The last tool there is Document Messages, and this would be any messages that are sent through the Nexus system. When we look to the far right of this slide, we see the last two sections of the navigation slide menu: status options and related documents. First, the status options. In this section of the slide menu, the user completing the report will see all the available options to change the status of the report. Some status change options may include submit, cancel, or modify. So in this screen, you will see the options that are available is submitting the report to MDE or canceling the report, which will delete it out of Nexus. The reason these two options are available is due to the current status of the report being as application in progress. So let's think of some key reminders to keep in mind as you work in Nexus on the Section 31A APFR. First, there are different user levels for each district: Authorized Officials Level 5 and Authorized Users Level 4. Authorized officials need to initiate the report, and if they would like an Authorized User 4 to finish the report, they need to assign it using that Add Edit tool. Hovering over the report's ID will let you see the current status of your report and your role in the district. And remember to hit save each time you finish the screen before progressing to the next page. To support an accurate and timely completion of the Section 31A Annual Program and Fiscal Report, ensure you provide comprehensive data that accurately reflects your planning, programming, and use of funding. Districts will want to consider bringing together a team including representatives from your program office, business office, and nutrition services office. Important documents to reference include your continuous improvement plans, end of the year Section 31A expenditure reports, program planning information including program costs, estimated summer program costs, grade levels served, and student counts served. When reporting the numbers of students who were served and who benefited from the Section 31A at-risk programming utilizing these funds, you will report the total student count served as well as the number of students within that count who were eligible for free and reduced price meals. In most cases, these numbers will not be the same, as there will be at-risk eligible students served or impacted who qualify in areas other than the eligibility for free and reduced price meals. As mentioned earlier, under the Forms section of the navigation slide menu is the district's cover page. The cover page populates with information from the Education Entity Master, or EEM, and lists your district's name and address. There are fields for you to select the main contact representative as well as the secondary contact person from your district. You select these names from a drop-down list populated from users you have added in Nexus. Once you have ensured this information is accurate, you can click Save in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. When you select your contacts, if their contact information is not accurate in the cover page, they should update their My Login profile. The next three forms or screens are Important Information, Assurances and Certifications, and the Help Guide PDF. Here you will find information about the use of this report, the section-by-section breakdown submission requirements, the MDE contact information, and general grant information. Districts are required to review this information prior to submission. The Help Guide is highly recommended to be printed out prior to filling out the report, so you can refer to it while completing the different screens. After reading each screen, you will see a check will be added to the square next to the form name. This will indicate that the form is completed and has no errors. If you see an exclamation point in that box, this means that there is an error on that form that needs to be fixed before the report can be submitted. Here's what the Help Guide looks like. It provides step-by-step directions on how to complete all 4 sections of the Section 31A APFR. It is a PDF document that can be easily downloaded and printed. When you click on the Form button, it will download into your web browser's download file. Let's dive into what each section is about. The APFR and the Help Guide.
This is Stephanie Holmes Webster. I'm going to pick up from here. As a reminder, Section 31A is a state aid grant designated for the current state fiscal year. The State School Aid Act allocates these funds to be spent during the current allocation year. Funds not spent during the allocation year may be carried over and will be available to be spent during the following grant year. Any funds not spent in the immediate following year would then be forfeited. Similar to federal funding, the state funding follows the first in, first out rule. To illustrate, if during the 22-23 school year, an LEA had 2021 and 2022 Section 31A carryover, these funds would be expended first before the new allocation would be spent. It is important that business offices and program offices have written procedures that align to various accounting and programming requirements for accurate accounting and program planning. For the purpose of end-of-year reporting on the APFR, districts should report Section 31A expenditures for the current school year and any funds to be expended for at-risk summer program planning that the current year's grant will fund. Because the APFR is due on July 15, 2023, as required by state legislation, summer programming will likely extend beyond this due date. It is important to go ahead and estimate and report anticipated costs. Again, any Section 31A funds not expended by the end of the district's summer programming, generally August 31st, will become carryover for the 2023-24 academic year. Let's begin to move through Section 1 of the report. Within Nexus in your Section 31A APFR, you will see along the left side of your screen on the slide menu, Section 1 District Compiled Report. Section 1 includes 3 parts, Part A, B, and C. We will take a look at each part. We are in Section 1. You should have out your Section 31A Help Guide, which you can see on the ribbon menu is available for download under the Forms tab. Let's take a look at Section 1, Part A. Part A contains 2 years of information: the final allocation, the allocation spent, and carryover, all at a glance. Fields are populated to display the previous year's final allocation, allocation spent, and the carryover amount, which is up to date. If you need to make changes to expenditures from fiscal year 23, you need to notify us and Mrs. Judy Thalen to make the necessary adjustments. Most of the data in this Part A is pre-populated. Reporters are responsible to complete only 3 fields here. Data in Part A is populated from the previous grant cycle's final allocation from your previous year's APFR. To make sure the information that populates into the current year is correct, it's important that actual summer expenditures have been updated to account for any discrepancies between the projection you made related to your summer programming in the previous year and the amount actually spent. Send an email to your SPOC or the general email inbox to have your report open to make corrections. When all information is accurate, the reporter will begin by entering the total previous year's carryover spent in Table 1, line 4. In Table 2, line 2, LEAs indicate the total year allocation spent. These totals are broken down and entered into the upcoming sections 2, 3, and 4 of this report. As previously noted, for carryover, we use the first in, first out accounting rule. This means LEAs must first spend all carryover funds from the previous grant cycle prior to using the current year allocation. Carryover is reported in Table 1, line 3. In the event that an LEA spent less than the full carryover amount from the previous grant cycle, it will be necessary for the reporter to contact the Section 31A team, as the unspent funds will be returned to the state. In Table 3, LEAs will enter the number of schools utilized in Section 31A funding. The reporter will complete just 3 fields in Section 1, Part A: the carryover spent, the amount spent of the total current allocation, and the number of schools utilized in Section 31A funding. So to review, you're in your help guide, page 1, Section 1, Part A, and on your APFR, you are completing Section 1, Tables 1, 2, and 3, and the number of schools utilized in funding. In Part A, you are in Table 1, where your previous year fiscal summary is. Lines 1 through 3 are pre-populated. Again, if you need to modify your report, you want to send an email request to your consultant and Mrs. Judy Thalen. On line 4, you're entering the amount of carryover spent in 21-22. In Table 2, current year fiscal summary, line 1 is pre-populated. Line 2, you will enter the amount of the allocation spent. And in line 3, that will automatically calculate by deducting line 2 from line 1. Table 3 in your current year grand total spent will automatically calculate from Tables 1, line 4, plus Table 2, line 2. Under Table 3, enter the number of schools that utilize Section 31A funding through the grant cycle. Please note the sectional carryover as noted in your help guide document. We are now in the help guide on page 2. We are looking at Section 1, Part B. And in your APFR, we are on Section 1, Part B. So Section 1, Part B, in this part of Section 1, Nexus will populate these calculations for lines 1 through 7 once the entire application has been completed. LEAs will input the total unduplicated number of at-risk students served. When you begin to complete the report, lines 1 through 7 will each be 0, as they are populated as the reporter completes sections 2, 3, and 4. Once sections 2, 3, and 4 are complete, they will populate here to Section 1, Part B. The reporter will complete line 8, entering the total number of unduplicated at-risk pupils served. Unduplicated headcount means that each student served is counted only once during the fiscal year, regardless of the number of services that may have been provided to that student. We are in Section 1, Part C, and in the help guide, we are on page 2. Section 1, Part C relates to school-wide reform. LEAs that choose to use Section 31A for school-wide reform efforts must ensure they are meeting the legislated criteria. That criteria includes 40% or more students within a building that are determined to be at-risk eligible. The LEA utilizes evidence-based practices, which is guided by their needs assessment. And that school-wide reform efforts are evidence-based and must include parent and family engagement strategies, as well as documentation of the at-risk program planning as part of their continuous improvement planning process. Determination should be made through team-based decision-making and ongoing evaluation of needs and program effectiveness. LEAs that utilize school-wide reform must check the box indicated and report the amount spent on school-wide reform efforts. If the box is checked to indicate funds were used for school-wide reform, LEAs must indicate a best practice or strategy from the list, or fill in the box for the strategy the LEA uses if it is not listed. At least one strategy must be identified if the school-wide reform is indicated. If the box is checked and no strategy is designated, the report will generate an error message, and the reporter will not be able to move beyond this section. All LEAs, including those utilizing funding for school-wide reform, are responsible for reporting in all sections of the report. Please note that after you have finished Section 1 and click Save, you will receive an intention or error message for this form. The error will read, grand total Section 31A spent in 21-22 Part A Table 3, Row 1, must equal the total amount spent for programs and supports Part P, Row 7. What this is telling you is that when you complete and save the next three forms, sections 2 through 4, with the itemized section, 31A funded supports and services, then come back to section 1 form again. Your itemized expenditures should align to your overall spent funds reported in the initial fiscal tables. As long as the itemized supports costs match the general funds spent reporting, this error will clear. Now we will move on to Section 2, Direct Instructional Supports, Pre-K, and My MTSS Narrative Responses. In Section 2, the district will report the direct instructional supports that were provided to at-risk eligible students. This includes support provided during the day, after school, or during extended school year programming. The areas are broken down into secondary program planning, 9 through 12, direct instructional supports, or MTSS K-12, and intervention supports. LEAs will also check the box to indicate if they have utilized up to 10% of funds to support pre-kindergarten in any of the areas listed. Note that this year, we have added 2 additional MTSS survey response questions related to the implementation of the district's multi-tiered systems of support. All questions must be answered to move to submit the report. Let's look closer at secondary program planning. In your help guide, we are still on page 2 at the bottom of the help guide. We are reporting in direct instructional supports for secondary program planning. The first table in Section 2, Part A includes categories related to programming for at-risk eligible students in grades 9 through 12 or secondary program planning. The district will report direct instructional supports for secondary programming planning here first. The program categories have not changed from previous years and reflect allowances for supplementary secondary expenditures of Section 31A funding. In columns A through C, report the actual grade levels served, the total number of at-risk eligible pupils served, and the number of students from the total served who were eligible for free or reduced price meals. In column D, report the amount of Section 31A funding that was spent in each of these designations. If your district did not use Section 31A funding for these categories, leave those columns blank. Let's glance at some helpful hints for reporting in the secondary program planning section. This information is also located in the Help Guide document for your reference, beginning at the bottom of page 2. The Help Guide includes the information we are sharing today, as well as more detailed information to help answer any questions you may have as you complete the report. Page 3 of the Help Guide includes more specific information about completing Section 2 and includes examples and answers to commonly asked questions. In Section 2, districts will report all supplemental allowable costs related to specific secondary programming planning, such as staffing, materials, transportation, and allowable tuition costs and fees. There are 9 APFR secondary program areas listed in the table on the far right of the slide. These include International Baccalaureate, Advanced Placement Coursework, English Learner Service Programs, Credit Recovery, Career and Technical Coursework Supports, Dual Enrollment Programs, Alternative Education Supplemental Supports, SAT Prep Coursework, and GED Coursework. Any cost related to programming provided to grades 9 through 12 that has been reported in this part of the APFR table should not be included in any other section of the APFR, as no expenditure should be duplicated. Supports and services provided with Section 31A funding must be designed to reduce or eliminate barriers for at-risk eligible students. If you or your district has secondary program planning context-specific questions, please feel free to contact your single point of contact. Now we'll take a look at Section 2, Direct Instructional Supports, MTSS K-12. This information is also on page 3 of the Help Guide. Direct Instructional Supports, MTSS K-12, is the area to report expenditures for instructional behavioral coaches, MTSS coaches or coordinators, any supplemental core content area teachers K through 12, instructional materials purchased with Section 31A funds, excluding those that were already reported in secondary 9 through 12 area, any academic paraprofessionals, behavior paraprofessionals, and certified licensed behavioral staff. As before, columns A through C report the actual grade level served, the total number of at-risk eligible pupils served, and the number of students served who were eligible for free or reduced price meals. In column D, report the amount of Section 31A funds that were spent on these services. If funding was not utilized in an area designated, leave those rows blank. The next slide will provide some helpful hints on completing this section of the report. We are still on Step 2, Direct Instructional Supports, MTSS reporting. So what is reported here and what is not? In this table, districts will report direct instructional supports, including staffing related to MTSS, supplemental content area teaching staff such as co-teachers, paraprofessionals related to academics and behavior, and instructional materials that were not already reported under secondary program planning. The table on the far right lists the allowable direct instructional support categories. So a point of clarification, an interventionist or personnel would be a person that perhaps may have a BA or BS degree, someone with additional certification, background in reading or mathematics, employed by the district in Tier 2 and 3 intervention supports. A paraprofessional may be a person who may not necessarily have a degree, but 60 or more credit hours to support in classrooms, academically or behaviorally. A certified behavior interventionist would be someone certified having a degree with credentials and background in functional behavior assessments, etc., that are employed by the district. If you have district-specific context-related questions, please contact us via phone or email. We have moved on to Step 3 in our APFR, intervention supports during the day, after an extended school year. In these sections of the table, districts will report certified teachers or qualified staff that provide intervention or tutoring in the areas of reading, writing, math, social studies, or science, funded with Section 31A Monday. Paraprofessionals or interventionists providing supplemental English learner program services to multilingual students in grades K through 8. As before, columns A through C report the actual grade level served, the total number of at-risk pupils eligible served, and the number of students who were also eligible for free, reduced price meals. Column D is where you will report the amount of Section 31A funds that were spent on these services. If the district did not use Section 31A funding for these categories, leave all columns blank. Remember to avoid duplication. Academic or behavioral paraprofessionals were reported previously in Section 2, Step 2, Direct Instruction. Instructional materials related to intervention were reported in the previous section. Support for English learners in grades 9 through 12 were already reported under secondary program planning. Let's take a look at the helpful hints for completing this section. We're still on Step 3, Intervention Supports during the day, extended day, and school year. The left column of the first table reiterates what we discussed on the previous slide as to what will be reported under intervention supports during the day, extended day, and extended school year. The center column indicates what will not be reported in this section. The table on the far right lists the allowable support categories. This is Part B, Pre-Kindergarten. If the LEA utilized funding for pre-K, complete Part B. There are 5 categories of expenditures. The categories are the following: additional seats, transportation costs for eligible students, professional learning, program coaches for MTSS, and SEL supplementary supports and supplementary materials. If the district has specific questions regarding GSRP foundational requirement, please contact Michelle McManus in the Office of Great Start. Questions about supplemental allowability for funding with Section 31A should be directed to your specific point of contact.
Now we'll move on to the final part of Section 2. It includes 4 questions regarding the LEA's implementation of a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. The questions are designed to gather responses that reflect the district's implementation, support, and ongoing refinement of their tiered delivery framework. In the first 2 questions, the MDE is asking for specific information related to who provides the district with professional learning or technical assistance related to MTSS, and the specific fidelity measures or tools used within the district to measure the effectiveness of MTSS. New this year are 2 questions related to areas LEAs are interested in receiving additional professional learning and technical assistance. Let's take a look at each question. Question 1 asks, during the 2022-23 school year, list who provided the LEA with professional learning and/or technical assistance to support pre-K-12 MTSS implementation. For example, the My MTSS TA Center, an ISD, a vendor. Question 1 is asking for specific information about who is providing the professional learning and technical assistance that is directly related to continuous improvement and the multi-tiered system of support. Who is providing expertise in working toward full implementation of the components of MTSS? Who is supporting staff in understanding and applying strategies to implement MTSS with fidelity? What new learning is taking place to plan for ongoing improvement? Sources of support may include the ISD or RESA, the My MTSS TA Center, formerly My Blissy, or a private vendor. And those are just a few examples. If you respond with a name of an ISD or individual, we ask that you include the role of the individual and the type and topic of the training. It's important to note that answers such as not applicable are red flags, since the implementation of MTSS is required for all districts who receive Section 31A funding. It is understood that all LEAs are on their own path toward full implementation, but answers such as not applicable could be interpreted as an LEA not meeting the assurances required to receive Section 31A funds. Remember, these 2 questions require a response and may not be left blank. An answer must be provided in order to submit the APFR. If assistance or clarification is needed, please contact our Section 31A team. Here are examples of what would represent appropriate responses for question 1. The first example shows a list of personnel who provide the professional learning, followed by a list of topics covered. Keep the response simple by providing a list. Similarly, the next example indicates the name of the ISD and the professional learning provided, aligned with needs and implementation of their tiered system of support. The final example demonstrates how a district may respond to indicate their plan moving forward if professional learning or technical assistance has not been in place. This slide shows non-examples of responses to question 1. These responses would not be appropriate. Not at this time or not applicable are not acceptable responses. Generic descriptions that do not provide specific information about the source of professional learning and the subject matter aligned to ongoing improvements and implementation of a multi-tiered system of support are also not appropriate. Question 2 asks LEAs to list the tool or tools the district is using to measure the implementation of MTSS as intended. The question is asking for specific information regarding the fidelity measures being used within the district to measure the effectiveness of the implementation of the key components of their MTSS framework. It asks what tool the district is using to examine and reflect on how successfully they are meeting those key components. A fidelity measure will show where the LEA is in the continuum of full implementation. Fidelity tools are used to keep track of which features are in place and to what extent. These may include a tiered fidelity inventory, a district-generated rubric, or an MTSS self-reflection tool, among others. Here are examples of what would represent appropriate responses for question 2. The first example is a list of the fidelity measures that a district may be using. Please keep the response simple by providing a list of information. The second example demonstrates how a district may respond to indicate their plan moving forward if a fidelity measure has not yet been put in place.
Here are some non-examples. As previously mentioned, not at this time is not an acceptable response. Stating a needs assessment and district planning is generic and does not provide enough information. Student achievement, progress monitoring tools, and universal screeners are not measures of fidelity for MTSS and are not appropriate responses to question 2. After completing your MTSS narrative responses, be sure to go to the upper right corner and select Save. If you need any assistance or have district-specific questions, please contact our team for additional information. The 2 new questions this year ask districts to share areas they would like further guidance and resources. The first new question asks, of the 5 components of MTSS, in what areas would you benefit from further guidance and resources? Districts are invited to check all that apply. The second new question asks, at which levels additional guidance and resources would be helpful? Elementary, middle school, and/or high school, and again, districts may choose all that apply. Our team will use this information to plan for upcoming technical assistance and professional learning. Now we will move on to Section 3, Direct Non-Instructional Supports. This section has 3 parts. In Part A, it lists expenditures for school health clinics, medical services, mental health services, counseling, social workers, and activities to reduce chronic absenteeism. All these areas are reported here, and that is those services that were funded with Section 31A. It's important to note that infrastructure costs are not allowable. As before, in columns A through C, report the actual grade levels served, the total number of at-risk eligible pupils served, and the number of students served in this category who were eligible for free or reduced priced meals. In column D, report the amount of Section 31A funds spent on each of these services for at-risk eligible students. If the LEA did not use Section 31A funding for these categories, leave all columns blank. Section 3, Part B, is titled Other Supports. The Help Guide, page 4, has additional information to help you as you complete this section. You will begin by indicating if your district has 50% or more students who are eligible for free or reduced priced meals. Choose the radio button to indicate yes or no. You will see the school parent liaison position is listed here, and for districts who qualify, funds may be used to support a school parent liaison or for school security. And again, that is for districts with 50% or more students who qualify for free or reduced priced meals. Also, crisis intervention and anti-bullying program expenses can be reported here, as well as parent, family, and community engagement. Keep in mind, parent and family engagement efforts are required for LEAs that use funding for school-wide reform. In Part C, report Section 31A spending for professional learning that was related to your multi-tiered system of support, implementation of a coaching model that supports a tiered delivery framework, or professional learning related to the Read by Grade 3 law. Include the grade levels impacted by this professional learning and the amount of Section 31A funds spent in each of these categories. As a reminder, there is no cap on professional learning expenditures, and once you've completed this section, move to the top right corner and select Save. The final portion of the report, Section 4, School Breakfast Programs. Page 5 in the Help Guide will provide assistance as you complete this section. All LEAs who serve school breakfast complete the School Breakfast Program section. The number of students eligible for free and reduced priced meals will be pre-populated based on the previous year's fall count number. LEAs enter the amount per student they choose to expend to support their school breakfast program, and that can be anywhere from 1 cent to $10 per student. The total amount will calculate based on the number of eligible students. So the designated amount multiplied by the number of students eligible for free or reduced priced meals. For those LEAs that are exempt, check the box to indicate you do not provide school breakfast. If you have questions about your district's particular status, please contact the Office of School Health and Nutrition. If you would like specific information related to your student count for this section, it is available on the MDE Program Allocation website. A note for districts that are designated as Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP, and districts that have alternative agreements with other districts to operate their nutrition programs and grants. These districts are required to support their school breakfast program by designating an amount between 1 cent and $10 per student. We encourage LEAs to consult with the Office of School Health and Nutrition for ideas on how to enrich the school breakfast program through the use of these funds. After completing this section, move to the right-hand corner and select Save. With sections 2, 3, and 4 complete, it's time to return to section 1, the district compiled report. In section 1, review the total in Part A, Table 3, the current year grand total spent. This is the total of the carryover spent together with the current year's allocation spent. This total should match total in Part B, the total amount spent for programs and supports. That match indicates the itemized services and supports align to the total grant spent, and you are ready to save Section 1 by clicking Save in the top right-hand corner. Once saved, use the slide menu at the left and scroll down to Status Options. Click Submit Report. Once you choose Submit Report, you will receive a pop-up screen. You'll either see a confirmation message to confirm you want to submit the report. If you're ready to submit, click OK, and the APFR has been submitted. Or you may receive an attention message. If an attention message pops up, there will be a link to the forms that contain errors. Be aware that if there are errors in any of the sections, the icon next to the form name on the form slide menu will have an exclamation point rather than a check. Please address any errors and then submit the report by choosing Submit Report. And your APFR is complete. We want to thank you for joining us today. We want to invite you to our upcoming virtual hours where we will answer additional questions you may have. This year, virtual office hours are scheduled for June 22nd from 1 to 2 and July 11th from 10 to 11. You may also contact your single point of contact for district-specific questions. For questions related to allocations or the pre-populated data within your report, please contact analyst Judy Thalen. As a reminder, here is a map that highlights the areas each of our consultants support as the single point of contact. Again, thank you for joining. We look forward to continue to work together in service to our students and school communities.